Right bugs, it's Grounded 1.0 and another first look. Today we're taking a look at the Moth. Yes, I thought this might be a boss, I thought it might be a dragonfly, maybe a wasp, but it turns out the flying creatures we'd seen leaked ages ago and the stuff to do with it were indeed moths. So let's go through the first look on how to deal with these guys. So yeah, it does have scales, it does have obviously moth fluff, and that's kind of the stuff that we assumed would be part of maybe like a dragonfly boss, especially as it was kind of centered around its upper yards. I'm not that disappointed, but you can find more of these guys above the rotten stump. I'm going to show you the Moth armor set as well at the end of this little run, and yeah, it's just a heads up really, not a full-blown guide on best strategies just yet. Obviously getting across to the playset is pretty tough. You might be able to use some of your Tufts gliders to glide onto it from some of the other sides, but then getting around to the front entrance is where you need to get, hopefully avoiding all the tiger mosquitoes. There will be another entrance that leads to an under area laboratory, but that's for another video. Go and check that out. Spoilers, it probably is going to be one of the biggest or last bosses in Grounded. But the playset has some of these gunpowder clumps that you can use a tier 3 axe to go ahead and get. And there's a small tear which will take you down to that secret endgame boss fight. Anywho, start climbing up the big massive castle. You'll see the button that you can actually pop on. I think you need that to actually access the laboratory downstairs. Halfway up you'll find a little mezzanine floor which has got 500 raw science, and you can look down on the area below. It's a real shame you can't build anywhere here. I understand why, it'd be too OP, you never get raided or any creatures would really do any damage to you, but it would be nice if I could place maybe a bed down or something here. As without a respawn point you're going to have to place it pretty far if you die against the Moth, and it's a pretty challenging fight. Keep going up and yeah, you will get attacked by a ton of these guys. They are super tough, the tiger mosquitoes. As always, annoying as ever, so definitely make sure you've got something quick and you can use stun on them. Just as you get to the top, there'll be a side little room where you can get the Moldorc scab. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of digging it, purple and yellow. As a bonus, I'm going to show you guys there is a gold molar to get in the cage as well as part of this playset, but let's get focused on finding that Moth. So keep going up the sides here and jump onto the very top of it. You might want to clear out all the mosquitoes that are here. Some of them do come nearby, so I would do a perimeter run around all the edges of this tower just to make sure you got rid of them all, as you don't want them fighting you as well as the Moth. There's obviously a milk molar here as well, so grab that, and the Moth is actually on the very top of the light. Now, I was doing my best to try and get on top of this point, but I really couldn't. Honestly, I figure I wasn't being just dumb. I could get up to here, but you can't really get on top of the actual green light itself. So if you want to trigger this fight, you're going to have to actually fire an arrow and try and get it. Sometimes the Moth does hover just above, but also he's asleep a lot of the time as well. I'm guessing he's up there because obviously it is a light, and Moths obviously like night lights, I think. So I spent a ridiculous amount of time trying to aim an arrow just at the right spot so I would get it, and eventually I did manage to do it. It does say you need a building tool to take down some of that building, as if you can gather it or harvest it, but you can't. It's just a mistake because it's attached to the button down below that gives power to the underground laboratory. So don't try and harvest anything here. But there we go, we got it, and it should now come and attack you. And oh my gosh, it is a pretty tough fight. It does absolutely mad debilitating damage. It will give you a dust guard, so you might need something to protect against that. That first attack nearly took down half of my health, so yeah, it's a really tough one. Now this one is almost unavoidable. You really got to run right out the way to get out of it, and you can see it is doing bleed damage over time. It will keep swooping down and you should be able to get a good few hits, and it kind of attacks you almost like a mosquito, but obviously it hasn't got anything sharp at the end of its boat race. So yeah, not technically a boss fight. As I said, I'm pretty sure there's one above the rotten stump as well, but it's certainly a challenge. I would consider it like a mini sort of boss, like maybe the green shield bug. I'm not sure if there's anything to really protect against that bleed damage. I'm maybe sure like if it's a poison or something like that, so I'm going to have to do some more testing, hence why this is only a first look today rather than a full-blown guide. These guys are neutral, you can see it's a tier 3 and it's only 3 hearts, so it's not got the most health, it's just the amount of damage it can do and the challenge in taking it down as it's an airborne creature. It's weak to fresh, spicy and sour, which is good, but it's resistant to busting, slashing and salty. The only pieces that you use it for, I do believe, are the Moth fuzz and Moth scales to make the Moth armor set, which of course, as you would imagine, is good for ranged attack. Although I've got to say, I'm not a big fan of its actual buffs, but we'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, that bleed damage is massive and you just can't really get away from it sometimes. I did try a bunch of different tools and weapons. Obviously something with poison or something that has applied bleed damage itself could be pretty good, so it's taking damage while it's in the air. And trying to just avoid it. In fact, this actual place to fight is probably one of the worst because you keep getting through them little gaps. You can't actually just walk across them sometimes. Sometimes you do have to jump, you get stuck on them. And I did take a nice photo just to show you the real look of it. So it's a great little creature, I absolutely love it. But yeah, I found it pretty tough after the initial stages though. I managed to get a grip of how to take it on. You can block some of the attacks it does, obviously just not that main one there. And you can see the dust guard where it's going to pretty much reduce your movement speed and your damage attack speed. It does wind you as well, it will stun you, so you can't really do anything for a few seconds when you first get hit. But eventually I was whittling it all the way nearly down. One more attack and I finally defeated it. And then yeah, go ahead and pick it up. I got 4 moth fuzz from that, but I didn't get any moth scales, so you probably are going to have to go and hunt them down above the rotten tree stump. So what can you make with them? Well, you got the moth wrap set. So the head is going to give you defense of 4 and resistance of 2.5. It is a light armor, and all 3 of the pieces obviously are going to give you ranged attack bleed, so it'll do exactly the same bleed damage as the moth. To craft the headpiece, you're going to need 2 moth scales and 3 of the moth fuzz, as well as 5 lint rope. Chest piece has got a defense of 7 and a resistance of 5. You need 5 moth fuzz, 3 pupa leather and 5 lint rope to make it. And for the boots, you're going to need 4 pond moss, 5 moth fuzz and 2 pupa leather. I'm quite digging the look of it. I think it's pretty interesting and unique, not like all the other kind of arm sets you see in other games. Bit sad you don't use any of the moth parts though to make a glider. I could guess we're confirming now there are no more gliders in Grounded incoming by looks of things, unless they add it in as DLC or updates in future. The set bonus gives you more speed when you're killing stuff using ranged attacks, and it does work for the brand new wizard staves as well. So this is really good for a high speed hunt, taking down maybe obviously the scarabs. That bleed effect as well can do a huge amount of damage even close up, but using ranged items. Especially if you're dealing with a bunch of smaller creatures and you don't want to get hit, you'll be able to move around a little bit quicker while firing off pot shots if you're that good with a bow or using a stave. I personally feel like this is definitely designed better more for the obviously use of a stave than a bow. If you go ahead and upgrade the whole suit down the sleep path, then you gain the chance to get some of your stamina refunded back when using bows or staves. So you can see I've got the status effect there of the extra quick speed time. It actually gives it a bit longer than actually some of the others. I'm sure there's been something like this with one of the other weapons or armor sets and it didn't seem to last that long. So it's basically the quickening for maybe like 10 or 15 seconds. And yep, that bleed damage does really come in handy. Ended up killing this ARP fire ant just off camera as I was dealing with the rest of the creatures. But maybe the actual termites were a bit more resistant to it because it didn't seem to be taking their health down as much. So good luck hunting these down. They've not got the most health, they've not got the most life, but it's just the challenge of actually taking them down when they're doing so much aerial damage. Yes, using a bow and arrow might be the best way. The crossbow might be a bit too slow. You're definitely going to need something to move around quickly to avoid a lot of its attacks. And whoever designed the cute sounds that emanate from it, even though we're killing it, you are a sadist. I felt sad. It was giving such little whines. I want one as a pet. Let me fly with a moth, you cowards. I'll be back for more 1.0 looks. Until then, rat bags, I'll catch you lot later.